Good afternoon. Welcome to this special full council, to elected members of the public, members of the press. We have been asked here, following a motion signed by 6 members of council,
Chairman, do you want to take the declarations of interest?
yes, that would be the declarations of interest. Councillor Sims.
I'm actually, clearly I have an interest in this. I'm not quite sure if it's formally a declaration of interest. However, I think in the interest of making the proceedings a lot more comfortable for everybody else, I will declare an interest and leave the room. I have just a short statement I'd like to read out first of all. I did apologise for my traffic offence back in September, and I'm very happy to reiterate that apology. However, it seems that some members still have some not unreasonable concerns. To address these, I am very happy to withdraw from taking part in standards panels for the foreseeable future. I do not consider this impacts on my role as Chairman of the Finance Audit and Scrutiny at all. And this small compromise, which I'm very happy to make, could have avoided today's unpleasant and unnecessary meeting.
Are there any further declarations of interest?
Chairman, I'd like to ask Mr. Sims before he leaves, is this matter under any sort of legal process at all?
I don't know that that's quite regular.
Well, I don't think it would be right for us to consider it if it was under legal process.
Well, again,
Councillor Sims, would you please be so kind as just to wait outside if we get a question that we feel you might have to answer because we don't know the details of what's going on.
yes,
Thank you very much, but I don't think this is the place to do it. If we've got a point of information, perhaps we could do it that way, Councillor Daly.
Well, I'd like to know before we start the discussion, because I don't want to be part of some semi-judicial process if there is already a judicial process going on.
Right, thank you. For the moment, can I just complete the declarations of interest? Are there any further declarations of interest? No? If you forgive me, I'll just take some advice.
No, Chairman, no, just needed that. And the notice. The notice is just as it states. We have no information at all on what it was concerning.
Would members like me just to call Councillor Sims back into the room to answer that question posed by Councillor Daly?
Respectfully, Chairman, I think Councillor Sims stated on his mid-exit that he wasn't qualified to answer that question, so I don't think anything will have changed.
Councillor Mrs Saville.
Chairman, currently we have no reason or evidence why actually this motion is before us, so it could be about anything.
Fine, thank you. Councillor Mrs Gottick. On this point.
Yes, just on a point of mentioning one's interest, obviously as a signatory to the letter, I just want to be sure that I'm absolutely clean, if you like, and that obviously I have an interest in the sense that I signed the letter, and so has everybody else who signed the letter. So I just wanted perhaps to take some advice on that.
Administration Officer, would you like to?
Chairman, the interest would be in the matter you were going to discuss. So the letter stated, the 6 undersigned members wish to requisition a special meeting of the council to debate the request that Councillor Steve Sims resigns his position as Chair of Finance Audit and Scrutiny Committee with immediate effect. We're not clear on the reasons for demanding that.
Right, fine. I don't know that I can ask Councillor Sims if, as Councillor O'Neill says, that he says he's not qualified to answer the question. Councillor Daly, would you like me to call him back in and ask him that question?
Chairman, I'm prepared to carry on for the time being, but if I feel we're straying into areas we shouldn't do, then I will speak again.
Thank you very much for that. Right, if there are no further declarations, are you trying to declare an interest?
Yes, Chairman. Since signing the request to call this meeting...
No, I'm sorry, Councillor Bilser, I'm just trying to make sure that I've got the declaration
I'm sorry,
of interest.
okay.
Right.
Well,
We've done with that. Nobody wishes us to call Councillor Sims back in for any point of information. Because if not, I'm going to allow him to leave the building. Mrs. Grottick, Councillor Mrs. Grottick.
Thank you. I'm sorry to chip in again, but can you please clarify why this matter, which is obviously concerning the affairs of a particular councillor, is in part 1 and not in part 3, which I have to say I would have expected that it might have been.
I'll ask the administration officer to, although I believe that you have already been given this information, but I'll ask the administration
Yes,
officer
I just wanted to feel that it might be useful if it was aired in public.
This fails the public interest test in as much that you as councillors are public figures and anything to do with you as a public figure fails that public interest test to be kept secret.
Thank you.
Added to which, I imagine the identity was revealed in the requisition in any case, so there's nothing to be kept confidential on that basis. Right. Councillor Mrs. Saville, did you wish to come in?
Chairman, have we moved on, or are we still on item 1?
Yeah, sorry, I could... if there are no further declarations of interest, I just want to make sure if we can ask, if we can let Councillor Sims know that he doesn't have to hang around outside the building. Right, I'll just allow Councillor O'Neill to come back in. Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Mrs. Saville.
Thank you, Chairman. I believe it is really regrettable that we're meeting as council today to discuss the agenda that is before us. I have to say, as an elected member, I do not think I've seen such a negative and unfruitful agenda in my time as a member. I do not think that it will benefit the community, the council, or elected members in any way. In fact, I think it does have a negative effect. For the community, it is costing money, financially and also in officer time. It tarnishes the reputation of the council, I believe. And also it causes division within members and detracts really from the important business of council. And quite frankly, I'm actually quite confused, why we're here. It's just to ask Councillor Sims to debate whether we ask him to resign or not. We could support that recommendation, but Councillor Sims has every right to refuse that. Unless there is evidence placed otherwise. And it is regrettable, Chairman, that actually, I think it is two of the members who actually signed this requisition of council are actually not present here today. And I think they have called this meeting and negated the responsibilities. If Councillor Sims has broken the code of conduct, the standards regime should be followed. But I would like to remind members that only behaviour within a member's role as a councillor while on duty can be considered under that regime. So each of us has what we do in our private lives is not considered under the standards regime. To my knowledge, the Chairman and Council and Chief Executive have not had a huge influx of letters from the community complaining with complaints around Councillor Sims, and I think that should be noted. I think also we must remind ourselves that chairmen of committee are elected on an annual basis, and this will obviously take place in the next 12 months after annual council. I personally believe that Councillor Sims is well able to carry out the responsibilities of chairman of the Finance, Audit and Scrutiny Committee, and I therefore propose he is not asked to resign and that Council endorses him as chair of the Financial Audit and Scrutiny Committee.
Thank you. Councillor Bilsborough and then Councillor Mrs Montford.
Yes, Chairman.
Then Councillor Dolan.
Before signing the request to call this meeting, I checked the Code of Conduct issued to all members. I now realise that as a former chairman of the Standards Committee, I should have checked the details of the legality of why we were calling this special meeting before I signed the request. I tried to withdraw my name before the meeting was summoned, but was told it was too late. I apologise to all concerned for my oversight of this important detail. Now, the Code of Conduct refers to guidance for members to be read with the Code of Conduct, which has been issued to all members. Page 7 is headed, Deciding when the Code of Conduct applies to you. It then lists the situations where members could be breaking the code when acting in any capacity as a representative of the council. However, and this is important, the last paragraph on page 7 says quite clearly, accordingly, this code does not apply when you are acting in your private capacity. And I interpret this as meaning that whatever you might think of Councillor Sims' driving offence, he did not break the Code of Conduct. I'm also aware of the 10 general principles of public life shown on page 6 of that document. However, these state what members should do as opposed to what they must do. Personally, I think that the normal procedure is that any complaint about the conduct of a council member should be submitted to the Finance, Audit and Scrutiny Committee together with the evidence as stated in the council's policy, not put through this kind of meeting. I do not think it is right for us to say to a member, we believe you have broken the Code of Conduct. Do you think you should resign from a committee? That is tantamount to asking the accused to pass judgment on himself and then agree to his sentence. And therefore, I support Councillor Mrs Saville in all she's said.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs Mumford.
I would like to support Councillor Saville. I'm not going to repeat all that she said, but I would like to second her proposal.
Thank you. Councillor Daly.
Well, I was going to second the proposal as well, and I'd just like to add that I agree with everything she says. I would have said it in a more forthright manner, but probably it's best that Councillor Saville said it in a more diplomatic way.
Thank you. Councillor Davis. Councillor Dr Davis.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chairman. I can't obviously support what has just been said by Councillor Bilsborough and Councillor Saville, but I would just like to make two things clear right from the start. One is, we're not asking Steve to resign, though this has been reported not only in some of our literature but on the media. It was a request that we have a discussion about his position. So we're not asking, we just feel that, or I felt in signing this, that it's a matter that should be discussed. I fully accept that perhaps not a lot of letters have been received by the council, but we have been, when I say we, the signatories, have been stopped in the street and questioned on this matter, and there has been considerable concern in the community about the happenings concerning the bus. I don't want to go into that. That has been decided elsewhere. But there were 35 comments on the remarks on the local media, so there was at the time considerable concern. The second issue I'd like to address is the Code of Conduct brought up by Councillor Bilsborough. It is very clear that the Code of Conduct is not mentioned at all. We are not dealing with a Code of Conduct. So what Councillor Bilsborough said is totally irrelevant, as I see it. If you actually look in the Code of Conduct handbook, there is, before the Code of Conduct, the general principles in public life. Now, I know these are not statutory, but Lord Nolan actually set out 7 principles. This council, in its wisdom, added 3 more, the first of which was the duty to uphold the law. Members should uphold the law and all occasions act in accordance with the trust that the public is entitled to place in them. Now, I would obviously maintain that the events broke this trust, and I will go on to explain how I feel that the public life is involved with what we do as councillors. the word should appears there. And obviously, we're all liable to break the law from time to time. We've all driven over 30 miles an hour in a traffic zone. So, as I see it, the word there is should. It's impossible to live our lives normally without occasionally breaking the law. But it's another thing to deliberately break the law when you're actually being found to be in breach. I would actually go on to say that there are other guidance that we're given as councillors, and I would say I find it regrettable to come under attack from my fellow councillors when I was elected to represent the community. I am in no way representing myself, and I would like to say quite clearly that I have a great respect for Steve Sims. We've got on well up to now. I've respected his work, and I still respect his work as council, and I'm not questioning his job as a councillor or the work he does as vice chairman. I'm sure he will do that very well. But as I see it, this is a matter of principle, and as chairman of scrutiny, he has the lead role in our authority in scrutinising matters of standards and the code of conduct. And I think in that position you should be an exemplar, and the public should have complete faith in your ability to give an example. Having dealt with the duty to uphold the law, further guidance is in the 14th report of the Committee of Standards in Public Life, chaired by Sir Christopher Kelly. Page 315 says, the separation between public and private lives in public office holders can never be absolute. There are circumstances in which private behaviour can legitimately affect an individual's employment in public office because of its impact on the reputation or integrity of the organisation concerned. It is not unreasonable for people to think, further point, it is not unreasonable for people to think that individuals who display poor behaviour or bad judgments in their lives are at risk of doing so in their public lives. And furthermore, 318, where private acts that become known can damage public confidence in public office holders in institutions, there are circumstances in which it is appropriate to take account of the private behaviour of public office holders or judging their suitability where the public interest clearly requires it. As I've already said, I have this is not a personal matter. I have no wish to involve or criticise Steve Sims. This is a matter for me, as I see it, as principle. I represent members of this community who were, for the time, exposed to danger through acts which, as I say, have been clearly set out elsewhere. And I think that it is my duty to at least discuss, and that the community should know where some councillors stand on this. And I find it regrettable that because we want to discuss something about the integrity that would involve or damage the integrity of this authority, which I would strongly uphold, I find that regrettable, and I'm sorry that I have to take an opposing view to the comments already made. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Mrs. Grottick.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I too would like to take issue with something Councillor Saville just said, although I'm reluctant, obviously, to criticise a colleague. I cannot agree with the comment that having this discussion might damage the reputation of the council. With respect to my valued colleague, I think not having a discussion is far more likely to damage the reputation of the council. We have just signed up to a corporate plan that has openness and transparency at its heart in everything we do. This has been an extremely difficult course of action for me to take, but I take it in response to quite a degree of community comment. It is not that the community may not have put pen to paper, but I can assure colleagues it is very much in mind, and it needed to, I think, have an airing. And strangely enough, when I spoke to Councillor Sims at the outset of this process, he was not in disagreement that it might
Councillor
be...
Mrs. Grottick, can we please not quote people who aren't present in the room? I don't think that's fair.
No, you're
I
absolutely
really don't
right.
think that's fair.
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, I was trying to be fair, but I can quite see your point of view on that one. So perhaps I'll just say that I don't think it has damaged the council to discuss this. I find Councillor Sims' offer to stand back from the standards role quite a positive thing that he has suggested. However, I would ask how you can be chair, and I'm really not, if you like, trying to be, how shall I say, negative. How can you be chairman of a committee when you've actually stood back from one of its key functions? I'm afraid it underlines my view that the Standards Committee would have been better left as a standalone committee, but obviously that alludes to previous things, and a democratic decision on the chairman's casting vote decided that it doesn't work like that. So I would only ask perhaps for some guidance on whether or not that indeed would be a legitimate way for us to move forward. I have to say, I think it shows a degree of acceptance of the situation from Councillor Sims that I find quite refreshing, and I'd like to commend him for that, and I hope the chair will allow me to commend him in his absence. Thank you.
My understanding about the new format for the standards process is that we have a floating panel of 3 members of council to sit on it. This system is designed to allow members who have conflicts of interest or other reasons for not participating to decline the opportunity to sit on the standards panel. Would the administration officer?
Yes, Chairman. It does say that it can be consisting. The report detailing the findings of initial assessment will be reviewed by a panel of the Finance, Audit and Scrutiny Committee consisting of either the Chairman or Vice Chairman and 2 other members before a final decision notice is issued.
In which case there is no bar to it proceeding. Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I'd just like to say that I have no doubt that anybody, whether here today or not, unfortunately, for whatever reason, genuinely feels that they're working in the best interests of both this authority and the community we all represent. I want to say that straight off the bat. However, it doesn't change the fact, in my opinion, as Councillor Saville pointed out, that the fact of the matter of where we stand right now is that 6 members called this meeting, 2 of which are not present, which I'm sure they have their reasons, but one of those 6 has clearly stated publicly here today that he regrets that action, and therefore I feel that it's wholly inappropriate for us to be having this discussion right now. And I would urge you as the chair to call for the vote for the proposition that's been seconded.
Thank you.
I do not feel that if 6 people are calling for this debate to take place, 2 of them aren't present and one of them has changed his mind, all bets are off, respectfully.
Thank you. Is there anybody who hasn't spoken yet who would like to come into the debate, please? Councillor McCarthy.
Yes, just one comment. I tend to agree with what Councillor on my right says. No, I can't never remember your name. But I think it would have been a different issue, as far as I was concerned, if you were talking about Councillor Sims and the Transport Committee, if he was chairing the Transport Committee, where he would have a direct involvement in the issue. I would have great difficulty in actually supporting him and staying on as Transport Chairman. But as he's not, I don't see any point in actually continuing this debate. And I would agree that we ought to have the vote.
Right. In that case, there are no further lights on, so I Councillor Bilsborough.
That's right. I feel, Chairman, that in any case, when this came up, it ought to have gone through the Finance, Audit and Scrutiny Committee under the complaints procedure. And then it would have been heard as normal with evidence and witnesses and all that. But I think this was the wrong way to go about it. I am quite prepared to accept Councillor Sims's undertaking that he will not take part in any items which involve code of conduct and scrutiny. It's only a minute part of that committee.
Thank you. There are no other lights on. In that case, I propose to take the motion as proposed and seconded. Councillor Mrs Saville, would you like to repeat the motion for members?
Chairman, I propose that Councillor Sims is not asked to resign from his chairmanship of the Finance, Audit and Scrutiny Committee, and that Council endorses his chairmanship of that said committee.
Thanks. That's been proposed and seconded. Those in favour of that motion, please show clearly.
6.
Those against? Those abstaining? So that's 3 abstentions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can you record my abstention, please?
Could
Sorry.
Mrs. Bottick's vote be recorded, please?
Yes.
In which case that brings an end to this meeting. Thank you very much for giving up your time to attend it.
Adieu.